In 2011, the Lafayette Central Catholic High School football team capped off its third straight 15-0 undefeated season with its third straight state championship. The Knights football team has now won 45 games in a row. The school's athletic director, Tim Bourdonnais, writes, "We are the only team in state history to win 3 consecutive undefeated state championships. Their team cumulative grade point average is 3.31. The players put on a football camp for handicapped students in the Lafayette area. They also put on a junior high and little gridiron youth football camp each summer. The players help with practice sessions and race day at the Greater Lafayette Soapbox Derby. The team prays together with their priest prior to each game and at the conclusion of each game. They also have a Thursday lesson that one of their assistant coaches or a parent presents prior to their team dinner. The lessons revolve around what it means to become a man in the Catholic faith." Will a representative from the team please come forward?
My name is Kevin O'Shea. I'm the head football coach at Lafayette Central Catholic. I've been there for 4 years. We are truly humbled and appreciative of this award. It is an award that means a lot to us and to our community. Thank you to Mr. Bourdonnais. I don't know if you guys know this, but Tim Bourdonnais, our athletic director, was standing up here 2 years ago with his baseball team. And Tim has 3 consecutive state championships to his credit right now, and a total of 5. So, what Mr. Bourdonnais has done for our athletic programs has been truly phenomenal. Without great athletes, you can't have a great team. And when you look at some of these kids up here, we've got all-area kids. We've got a 2-time All-State quarterback standing there in the middle. We've got a linebacker that was a first-team All-State. And the guy in the gray suit just signed a national letter of intent to attend Purdue University and is the state player of the year for 1A. So we've got some great talent. But these kids will tell you that the thing that probably meant the most to them was Thursday afternoon when we got done with practice, got done through the walkthroughs, all the mental portion going into a game. And we sat down as a group and we talked. And this was something that my assistant coach, Jim Schrader, brought to me after our first year. We went 9-2, but we kind of felt like something was missing. And Jim came to me and let me know that he thought that something was missing. He'd grown up, or he had coached these kids since they were, about yay tall. And he wanted an opportunity to teach these young men prior to our team dinner a little something about what it's like to be a man and growing up in faith. We did that, and Jim started off every year with a talk on humility, because when you're winning a lot, sometimes your head starts to get a little bit too big, and you need to realize where you came from and what you believe in. And I thought Jim Schrader did a great job of doing that for us. Jim couldn't be here today. He's on vacation, but without Jim Schrader, we wouldn't be standing up here today. And due to that fact, he would have parents, had mothers come in to talk about a mother's love. He would have a father come in and talk about a father's love. Overcoming obstacles. Each of our coaches would get up and talk about what they had to go through to be a man, what it was like to have children, what it was like to bring children up in faith. And it really was something that hit home with these young men. And winning helps, but when it's all said and done, football's just a game. And these kids understand that. And probably the game that stands out to me the most, and I'll relate it here in a second, we're a school of 235 kids. And we were ranked number 1 in the state for probably the last couple of years. And we were going into our last regular season game, going up against West Lafayette, who was ranked number 1 in 3A, 2 classifications above us, for the conference championship. We were down 14-0 going into the last quarter. hadn't played well. Somehow, some way, we got a drive together and we scored. 6 minutes to go in the game, we punted to them, knocked them down deep in their own territory, and we were able to get a tip pass. Somehow, some way, I think Travis tipped it and Danny picked it off, returned it to the 10-yard line. 4 plays later, we scored, tied the game with 2.5 minutes to go. It was a great football game. Crowd was roaring. People from a nearby high school left that game to come over and see our game. So as the game progressed, with 2.5 minutes to go, West Lafayette was trying to move the ball down the field, and somehow, some way, with 30 seconds to go in the game, West Lafayette threw a deep out. And Travis, raise up your hand. Raise up your hand. Travis, playing from his free safety spot, read the quarterback, broke all the way to the sideline, took the ball in midair about the 50-yard line, and returned it for a pick six with 25 seconds to go in the game. Now, it was phenomenal. And what really, my mind, as soon as he scored that touchdown, my mind started going back to Father Arbuckle, our team chaplain. He gave a little speech before the ball game, and he talked to the kids about how God really doesn't care who wins or loses this game. And he got a big smile on his face. He goes, but St. Michael does. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we upset the West Lafayette Red Devils. So, again, thank you so much. And it is quite an honor to be here today in Chicago Bears territory. We get to go down to Indianapolis Colts territory in about 3 weeks, and a number of our kids are going to get honored down there at the Colts complex too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, men. In 2011, the Mount Notre Dame High School girls volleyball team of Cincinnati won the state championship. This team is an all-Ohio academic team with a team grade point average of 4.87. The school's athletic director, Mark Schenkel, has written, "At Mount Notre Dame, service to others is not a requirement. It is a part of the school's everyday culture. All students are held to the high standard of building positive relationships with peers and people in the community. They are challenged to develop a sense of social responsibility and a solid understanding of Catholic social teaching so that they can advocate justice. Members of this volleyball team have excelled in service. The volleyball team members, along with their coach, are people of strong faith, rooted in Catholic values and tradition. They embrace the charism of St. Julie Billiart, foundress of the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, to proclaim the goodness of God by the way they live and to provide special care for those who live on the margins of society. The coaches decided to keep 21 players and one manager on the varsity volleyball team. The players on the team were all talented, driven, hardworking, and selfless young women that always had team success in mind. The Cougar practices were always competitive in nature, and the girls improved on a daily basis due to this competitiveness. Injuries were the biggest obstacle that the Cougars needed to overcome during the season. The injuries forced the rest of the team to step up and be even more competitive during practice which they did. The players that had not been playing as much throughout the matches and scrimmages were now forced to play much more significant minutes. The increased intensity during practice at this time continued throughout the rest of the postseason. The scrimmages started to become very high energy and were being played at a very high level on both sides of the net once the injured players were allowed to return. The execution at practice picked up due to the increased confidence of all of the players on the team. It took every one of the 21 players on the team to overcome the injury obstacles that this team faced, but they were able to do so through hard work, determination, belief, selflessness, and an incredible team attitude. Will a representative, or at least one representative, come forward?
I'd like to start by thanking Sports Faith International for presenting this award to us. We are extremely grateful and humbled to be sitting amongst all these professional athletes. People have done so many great things with their personal lives and professional lives. To be receiving this award means a lot to these girls as well as the school. It's funny, I had a whole speech written out exactly what I was going to say, and then all of a sudden during the mass they started talking about selfless, and that's what these girls are. And I figured, I don't know if it was a sign or whatever, I took it as a sign to throw that thing away and just talk about how selfless these girls were. On a volleyball court, you've got 6 girls playing at a time. A typical volleyball team probably has 12 to 14 girls. We have 21 plus manager. Obviously, it's very easy for people to start fighting, to people to start letting individual goals and that get in the way. That did not happen whatsoever with this team. They are the most selfless group of people I've ever coached. I've been lucky enough to coach for 14 years, and it's a team that I will always remember. They are incredibly driven, and I could not be more proud of this group of girls. We have one of our senior captains, Robin Curley, who's going to talk a little bit about the team and the season.
I would just like to say how honored we are to be here to represent Mount Notre Dame High School. Mount Notre Dame is an all-girls school located in Cincinnati, Ohio, that empowers young women, guided by their Catholic values, to recognize and develop their unique capabilities to live, lead, and serve in an ever-changing global society. Our volleyball team has truly lived out the mission of Mount Notre Dame. As one of the team captains, I would like to share with you a few reasons as to why I will never forget the 2011 season and this team. This past year has been very special for us. Athletically, we won the Division I Volleyball State Championship, but this was not our only achievement. Yes, the headline said, "Believe it, MND State Champs," but what it failed to mention was what our team has accomplished off the court. Even with practicing every day and tournaments on numerous weekends, all 22 girls and the coaches find time to serve the community. This is not a requirement or something we are forced to do. We do it because we want to, and we each have a unique calling from Christ to serve our community. Many of us spend our time coaching youth volleyball, tutoring, volunteering at hospitals, working at soup kitchens, and running donation drives for local charities. If you were to count up the number of service hours our team has accumulated, you would truly be blown away by the number. Not only do we individually serve the community, we also serve as a team. A few years ago, a player in our volleyball program was diagnosed with cancer. This news took a toll on the players, coaches, and families of the MND volleyball community. Just as we do on the court, our program kept fighting. We knew that with God's help, we could make a difference. This is when we decided to help raise awareness about children's cancer research through an organization called Cancer Free Kids. We established an annual match against another Catholic high school in our conference called Ace Out Cancer. At the match, there are raffles, bake sales, and games to raise money for Cancer Free Kids. Each year has been a success, and this year we raised over $4,000 for the foundation. It is truly incredible what this team can do to the community. Although many people think of us as a highly competitive volleyball program, What they don't know is how we live out our faith. Our team lives out our baptismal promises each and every day by helping the community become a better place. Having the opportunity to live out our faith on the volleyball court by praying before every game and off the volleyball court by serving our community has shaped us into being better Catholics and children of God. All of our team's accomplishments, both on and off the court, could not be possible without God's help. So as stated in the Bible, in Peter chapter 4, verse 10, as each one has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. So on behalf of the team, we'd like to say thank you to everybody here.
John Zielinski is a friend of the Maddie family. He nominated Anthony Maddie for the 2012 Sports Faith High School Hall of Fame Male Athlete of the Year. John wrote, Anthony was the record-setting quarterback for Aurora Christian High School this year, winning the 3A Illinois state title. He transferred from Joliet Catholic in 2010 to ACHS to play in a more pass-oriented offense. It worked since he has been given a full scholarship to play at Western Michigan next year. He is strong in his Catholic faith, defending it even when it was questioned by the head coach at Team Bible Studies. He was really able to break down some barriers between Catholics and Protestants and persevered in his faith in socially difficult situations at a school that at times could be hostile toward Catholics. And he did this at the age of 16 to 18 years old, defending his faith and perhaps even evangelizing others to Catholic Christianity. He is the example of what a Cathlete should be in what is increasingly a hostile world toward those of our faith. He was All-State at quarterback, threw for 52 touchdowns, and ran for another 17 for a total of 69 touchdowns. He is playing on the ACHS varsity basketball team this winter. Anthony?
Hi, I just want to thank Sports Faith International. I'm so blessed and really grateful for the opportunity to be here and be deemed worthy of receiving this award. Also, thank John Zielinski for nominating me for the award. I've definitely been really blessed in my life. A lot of things have been set out for me, and God's blessed me with a lot of talents. My family's blessed me, and there's a lot of things where, times where things have been made easy for me, and I've just had to sacrifice a few things that really weren't that important, and just make the right decisions, do the right thing, and work hard. And because of that, we were able to win a state championship. We went 13-1 this year, and there's a lot of games where things were going tough for us, and we were able to pull through. And state championship game was an unbelievable game. Throughout the season, we had to overcome a lot of injuries. 2 to our first 2 wideouts. One of which really couldn't play throughout most of the year. And then 2 more, one to our All-State lineman and another one to an All-State linebacker. So things were tough throughout the whole year. And as John said in the letter, there was times where Coach Beebe, Don Beebe, if anybody knows him from the Buffalo Bills and Packers, he never really, made things hard on me. He just had a lot of questions and questioned my faith a lot, and was interested. And at school, things got tough every once in a while, but I always wanted to stay strong in my Catholic faith. I never wavered in it, and a lot of times people would attack it a little bit, and always I had to stay strong. But Coach Beebe definitely made faith a big part of the program. And, we always prayed together before games, after games, Thursday Bible study. And I tried to work hard to make it not about Protestant and Catholic, but just about Christian. We're all Christians, Catholic, Protestant, no matter what you are. We're all Christians there. And trying to make that the main point was always important to me, and it became more and more important to Coach Beebe, too. I'm truly grateful, listening to all these stories. I'm just grateful to be named, with these people. So I'm just so thankful. I can say it a million times. So thank you one more time for everybody.
Thank you, Anthony. Bob Ladouceur began coaching the De La Salle Spartans in Concord, California in 1979 when he was 25 years old. He took over a team that had never enjoyed a winning season since the school's founding in 1965. While winning is the main goal of the De La Salle football program, it is not just about success on the field. In an August 2002 interview, Bob described his coaching philosophy as the opportunity for kids to improve physically, spiritually, and emotionally. His goal is to have each and every one of his players grow and develop in life, leaving better at each facet than when they joined the program. His teams had a 151-game winning streak. They've won 6 national championships. He is a religious study leader. A couple of years ago, he was the Sports Faith High School Coach of the Year. He wasn't able to make it because he had made a commitment to be in a friend's wedding. Amazingly, he said that there's a coach at his school who is more deserving than he. And so he nominated Frank Alaco, and we have Bob here today to present Frank Alaco.
Thank you for inviting me and Frank today, and hearing all the stories today and witnesses that people were telling today were very inspirational, and it's been a wonderful day for us. So what about Frank Alaco? I believe I should start with the primary reason why he's here and that we're honoring him, and that would be his coaching acumen. His statistics are gaudy, to say the least. His 20-year varsity career is incredible. 575 wins versus 77 losses. That averages to 27 wins a season versus, I think it's 3.7 losses. He has won 20 consecutive 20-win seasons. He has won he has had 6 seasons with 30 or more wins. He's reached the Final Four in our state of California playoffs 9 times out of the past 12 years. He has won 17 league titles, 14 straight league titles. His record at De La Salle is 203-5. He has won 9 section titles, 9 Northern California titles, and he's won 3 state championships in the Division I level. And Division I is the highest level in California. It's kind of backwards. I don't know why, but it's the toughest division to win. And he did that. He won 1 at a school that he coached at before, Northgate High School, and 2 at De La Salle. He's the only coach in California history to be able to do that, win 2 state championships or 3 state championships from different schools. Well, statistics can definitely tell a story, but it doesn't tell the whole story about Frank. You really can't appreciate the coaching job Frank does unless you see his teams play. Every team Frank coaches enters the season overmatched athletically and undersized. This becomes obviously clear during the playoffs. Yet he always has his team in March primed and ready for a state title run. He does it with a patient and precise half-court offense that relies on everyone handling the ball, constantly looking to a teammate for an open shot. More impressive is his defense. Their defense consistently cut the opponent's offensive output in half. They do it by taking away what others do best, accomplishing the task with unrelenting pressure on the ball, determined zeal, and disciplined buy-in to team responsibility. I am convinced there couldn't be any team in this country that is better prepared to play and compete. I mentioned this is a primary reason why we honor Frank. However, it is by far not the most important reason. The most important thing is how Frank uses basketball as a tool to teach gospel values and transform young people's lives. He models those gospel values daily. He can't help but do that because those values are who he is. There isn't anything Frank wouldn't do for another person. This extends well beyond the court, and his players know this. Frank has developed connections with everyone he meets. His graduates are his extended family. They always come back for counsel, advice, or just companionship. He always knows what they are doing and where they are in life. They all know that if they're in trouble, in need of advice, they can go to Coach, and he'll be there for them. This being there for the other is what Catholic theologian Karl Rahner calls the heart of the gospel response. Frank's being there for the other is just not his basketball boys or close friends. Frank will do anything for anybody. I've seen this and witnessed it. Friend or foe, known or unknown, it doesn't matter to Frank. He has the courage and confidence to extend himself with a belief that he can make a difference no matter how big or small. Frank truly is a Renaissance man. He's an excellent and inspiring public speaker. He's been the keynote speaker at very prestigious events, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Elks. He speaks at men parish clubs, Catholic business clubs. All over our diocese, he has spoken everywhere. He has a very subtle and effective way of communicating to individuals and the masses of how to be best at what we are all created to be in the eyes of God. What I love most about Frank is all the things he does that goes unnoticed. He'll do anything for anybody in need, no matter how inconvenient or the cost. This runs the gamut from at-risk youth, fellow teachers and coaches, the elderly and terminally ill. He's always available to them. Frank is a devoted son. His parents are here tonight. Husband, father, and doting grandfather. He writes beautiful poetry. He sings and plays the guitar. He attends and works on retreats. And I could go on and on about Frank, but I just want to share probably the most important thing. I teach a senior class called Senior Synthesis. It's in the Religious Studies department, and I'm on my last semester of seniors this year, and I have two of his players, and he probably doesn't even know that I have them. Well, he does. I've talked to him occasionally about them. Sean O'Day and Remington White. They're two of his, I think they're probably your fourth and fifth guy on the team. They're not the top players, but they're in there plugging away. Well, one unit in the class syllabus, a unit in the class syllabus is on ethics. And part of the ethics unit is making, of course, good decisions. And when we're faced with a tough decision, where do you go with it? And you've got two paths to go. The prompt I use for this writing assignment is Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. And of course, he's out in the woods and he comes along a path that diverges. And the end of the poem, it says, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." Now, the prompt on the writing assignment is for the kids is tell about a time in your life where you came upon that road and there was a divergence, and you had to take and choose that path. What was it like for you, and when was that, and when did it happen? And these guys kind of start sharing their answers, and they haven't shared them yet because I haven't turned their papers back. but I stole these two responses, and Frank didn't know I did that, and I dittoed them off. I'm almost done here, hang on. First one from Sean O'Day. He says, "The two roads diverged for me when I was going to quit basketball in the summer before my junior year. This was the most significant experience of divergence for me by far. By continuing to play, I've learned so many lessons that I might not have otherwise learned. My identity has been shaped by the lessons and values I've learned in the past 2 years playing basketball. Before my experience of playing basketball at De La Salle, I thought I knew the meanings of perseverance, hard work, love, sacrifice, and commitment. Now I understand and know the meaning of those values." Remington White's response: "A divergence that has been most significant in my life was a decision I made during my junior year. I was struggling on the court and knew that tryouts the following year were going to be really difficult. I was torn whether I should keep playing basketball or quit. It was a hard decision, but I decided to keep with basketball, and I'm glad I did. Basketball has made me a better man and person. I believe that I can make this world a better place by taking what De La Salle and the basketball program has taught me, which is to do the right thing all the time, even when it's difficult, make great decisions, and to be the very best friend I can to other people. I want to live out Christ in this world." I've taught a long time. I've taught for 33 years, and you know, I've read a lot of responses, but these two were right at the top of the chart, and I was very impressed, and they were very heartfelt. Some would think maybe that's an exception to the rule when it comes to Frank, but if you polled any of his players, past and present, to answer that question, they would all be in that kind of vein. They'd all be in that kind of line. And that's the kind of impression he makes on these youth and on our students. And he's a remarkable man. I love him very much, which is kind of odd for a football coach and a basketball coach to get along, because we're kind of at odds with each other, fighting for athletes and stuff like that. But I can't help but love the man. His values are incredible. He very much deserves this award. Thank you.
I won't be as long as Bob in my intro. But I'd like to thank Mr. McCaskey, Sports Faith International, and Angela in particular for this amazing award. And it's really, truly an honor to be here with all of you. I'd like to thank my former teammate, Dave Casper, who was Dave's one of the greatest athletes and finest men I've ever known, and he was kind of the driving force behind me here. Dave is just the kind of a man who always reaches out to lift others up, a real true Christian man, a great Catholic. I also want to thank Bob for coming out. Bob doesn't like to travel, and for him to come out was really special. Bob and I became very good friends many years ago. He's sort of a mentor to me. He's one of the greatest coaches in the history of high school athletics. I mean, Bob's teams went 15 years without losing a game, if you can imagine that. And so in 2004, we lost in the second round of the state playoffs, which we had never lost that early. Typically, we get to the section final or so. We lost in the second round, and I was really upset. I was home, and I really wasn't taking phone calls. And he calls me 2 or 3 times, and I didn't take his calls. And he's leaving me these messages. And about the 4th or 5th day, he says, "Frankie, you got to come out. Don't be a mole." And so the 5th day he calls, and his message was, you're focusing on the wrong outcomes. It's not winning and losing. It's about all those kids who come back every summer to be with you and work your camp, to hang around with you. That's the value of what we do, not the wins and the losses. Well, at that point, I called him on the phone, and I said, you haven't lost a game in 15 years. When you lose a game, then you can discuss losing with me, but you have no idea what it's like. So, I also want to thank my mom and my dad, who are here today, traveled all the way from New Jersey. Besides the obvious things that parents give to their children, their greatest gift was instilling a great Catholic foundation in their 4 sons. And all of us draw on that every single day. You know, my dad was a factory worker who worked about 3 or 4 jobs to put 4 kids through Catholic school. It was very important to him, and it's really paid off because we all have a very Catholic and spiritual base. I'd also like to acknowledge my wife, Phyllis, who couldn't be here today. She had foot surgery. I fell in love with Phyllis in 8th grade, and we've been best friends for 46 years now. And we have 2 wonderful children. You saw one of them up there, Frank, and just got married, my daughter, Kristen, as well. I was very lucky to have great mentors in my life. My older brother, Jerry, was a high school coach, and he was kind of like the coach for our family. You know, he had motivational sayings all over his room on adhesive tape. So he was preaching to us great values as we were youngsters growing up. I had 2 high school coaches, Donald Carpenter and Paul Miller, my football and basketball coaches, who everything was about God. We really did learn a spiritual base, and that everything was about serving God, and that through, I used to say that winning helps us serve others because people recognize when you win and they want to know why you win. So if you win, it's even more significant than losing because you have a greater forum, and it really is true. And finally, my college coach, I played football at Notre Dame for Ara Parsegian. And Coach Parsegian, the greatest mentor anyone could ever have. And the thing about Ara that was so amazing is not only was he a great coach, he still is. The work that he continues to do, you know, his grandchildren were ill, and he lost 3 grandchildren, and last week he lost one of his daughters. And Ara just keeps plugging along, and he's so positive and teaches us on a daily basis how to deal with adversity. So I've been truly blessed, not because of the X's and O's, but because I had great mentors who taught me so much. Being at De La Salle, being around winners, being around people like Bob, Mark DeMarco, our president at our school, and Brother Robert, who just are great leaders, and our school really works together. There's no animosity. There is no bickering between football and basketball or baseball and people arguing over athletes. We're there to serve our kids. The success of our programs in football and basketball and all the other sports are well documented, but it's really not because of the athletes. It really is, it's a byproduct of how we do things. If you were to be in our campus, every single sports program in our school has Christ as its a focal point. You hear the words discipline, love, sacrifice. I changed the DLS logo long ago to discipline, love, and sacrifice. And our kids believe that. And they truly do, when they become part of our sports programs, put themselves second and do what's best to serve their teammates. I thought it was funny, interesting that Pat mentioned the Garden of Gethsemane, because that's one of my favorite situations where, you know, Jesus, and I just talked about our team last week prior to our first playoff win, and I said that, you know, imagine Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane praying and sweating blood. You know, he's so intent in knowing what's going to come, and there's his friend sleeping. You know, and he says, couldn't you stay and watch with me a while? And the frustration of not having your friends there for you, and that's something we draw upon all the time, that it's not about getting a backside rebound, it's about never letting your friends down. Our program, truly spiritual based, we do studies. The Thursday night we do chapel service for our kids, and it's amazing to see these 15 to 18-year kids come in and bring motivational film clips, songs, poetry, readings from the Bible. They're the real teachers in this. And speaking of teachers, I was at a liturgy. My mom and dad were in California a few weeks ago, and we went to a celebration of Catholic School Week at St. Mary's Church in Walnut Creek, California. And the pastor was talking about Catholic Education Week. And he said something that I thought was fantastic. He said, it's never about the prophet. It's always about the people. And I was thinking about that throughout the remainder of the Mass. And he said, Moses didn't get to enter the promised land, but he brought people to it. And as I reflected upon that, you know, I thought of Martin Luther King, you know, who said, I'm not going to make it to the promised land, but you are. And I think about with us as coaches, it really is never about us. And even though I'm flattered and honored to win this award, it certainly isn't about me. It's about the kids. It's about those thousands of kids that I've coached in CYO, in high school, and in my basketball coached in my camps. And those kids have enriched my life, and they continue to be my greatest teachers. And as I look around this room, I see coaches. You know, all of us are coaches. If we're a parent, we're a coach. We're all teachers, learners, and doers. It's so incredible to see these phenomenal kids and to hear them speak and to know that the future and our faith is in really good hands with this generation. I was watching you, Angela, during the speeches at the luncheon, and in the love that you have and the admiration for UC, and I see how emotional you get that we're in good shape here. And a lot of it has to do with the foundation that you've created here. To the parents here, you have a great gift in the formation of young souls as we teach, and not only teach, but exemplify good behavior. And that's kind of what I've taken from this day when I see people like Mr. McCaskey and Mike McCoy and all of you guys that not only say it, but you live it, and you're an example and a role model. So, Mr. McCaskey, I thank you for that. And finally, to the teachers and coaches assembled here, we're called to the highest calling. We don't get paid a lot to do what we do, but we get a greater gift. We get to mold, model, and mentor the young kids who respectfully call us coach. And this isn't a job, it's a ministry. I always say it's a precious candle of which we have hold of for the moment, and we want to commit to make it burn as brightly as we can as we pass it on to future generations. The wins and the losses are merely notations in a record book. However, the lives of the children we serve and the lessons we leave in their souls will live well beyond a record book that will fade and diminish over time. And so, accepting this award, I challenge all of us to honor our Lord and serve as his disciples as we teach, challenge, inspire, and model the proper way to live in a spirit of discipline, love, and sacrifice. And finally, my favorite quote, there's a destiny that makes us brothers. No one walks their path alone. All that we put into the lives of others comes back into our own. Thank you very much for this significant award.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Frank. In 1994, George Shimko started the George Shimko Basketball School. It has provided a positive environment where players of all skill levels have had the opportunity to learn how to play basketball and learn what it is to be a good player on the court and a better person off the court. The model of the school is good students make better athletes. Education always comes first. The majority of the student athletes are excellent students, upstanding members of their communities and churches with solid background understanding how faith in God provides all of us with the opportunity to do great things in life. The program has been involved in many community activities, including food drives, clothing drives, and providing a level of excellence that allows the players to become productive members of the community. George is a firm believer in the Catholic faith and that your faith in God makes all things possible. He is a product of Catholic faith. He went to St. Bassus Grammar School, St. Rita High School, and St. Xavier College. George has been blessed to have a wonderful family who truly believed in the Catholic faith. His road to success was not an easy path. After he had a great grade school basketball career, the high school experience was just the opposite. After never making his high school team at the varsity level, he was able to have faith in God, the support of his family, and the confidence in himself to obtain a college scholarship to play basketball. As a college senior, he was his team's most valuable player. He is a college graduate. After college, George played professional basketball overseas. He attributed his awards to his faith in God and to the coaches and teammates who were the basis of his success. He learned after being cut in high school that if you have faith in God and support from your family, all things are possible. Sports Faith photographer Frank Casella says that Coach Shimko lives his Catholic faith. In a culture where the average dad spends 7 minutes a day in meaningful conversation with his kids, Coach Shimko gives his kids time, demands respect, and doesn't tolerate foul language or an angry temper. And he does this by example. George Shimko.
Oh, boy. This is just such an honor. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. McCaskey and Ms. Tomlinson and Mr. Casella for nominating me. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My mom and dad, very hardworking people. My dad worked as an auto mechanic. My mom worked as a waitress for 30 years. My dad, very, very calm. Nothing bothered him. My mom, fighting Irish woman. Anything that was happening, she was ready to go after it, and she was only about 5'6". So what I was able to drive from my parents is my father's patience and temperament, but my mom's drive on the inside, which allowed me to be achieving things that I didn't think was going to happen. When I was in grade school, as Mr. McCaskey said, I went to St. Basil, I went to St. Rita, and I went to St. Xavier. At St. Basil, I remember being in third grade. Sister Agnesita was in charge of determining who was going to be an altar boy. I really wanted to be an altar boy. So Sister Agnesita came to me and she said, "There's no way, George, you're going to be an altar boy. You have too much personality." And I was like, "Oh, sister, what are you doing to me?" I wanted to learn Latin. She said, "I'm going to make you a commentator," and made me come to commentate a Mass for Masses on Sunday. In fifth grade, I decided to play basketball. Now, I'm not a big person. I'm 5'10". I remember the very first shot I took. I lined the ball from the top of the key off the backboard. It's probably still rattling at this day and age. The coach at the time, his name was Mr. Bob Houston. He said, "You know what, George, I think you're going to be a pretty good shooter." And I said to him, "Well, I hope so. I'm going to work really hard at it." And so as Mr. McCaskey relayed, my grade school career was wonderful. I was actually on the 8th grade team in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then I got to high school, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I wasn't able to play at the varsity level. Now, I never complained about it, never worried about it. I just said, "You know what, I really love this game. I'm going to continue working at it." During the summer at that time in Chicago, they had a program called CNBL, which was a Chicago Neighborhood Basketball League, and allowed you to represent your park district and play in tournaments. We wound up playing in a tournament in Washington Park, and I wound up having a pretty decent game. And I got a phone call from the coach from St. Xavier that says, "Hey, we'd like to offer you a scholarship." My mom answered the phone, and knowing all the things that happened to me in high school, she hung up. So fortunately for me, the coach called back and offered me a scholarship, and I wound up playing 4 years at St. Xavier. I didn't start. I came off the bench. I had no problem with that. That was my role. Senior night came, and coach came up and said, "All the seniors are going to start." And I said to coach, with all due respect, I said, "I really don't want to start because that's not the role that I have on this team. Play me the same way that you've always played me." And so I did that and wound up having a very nice senior night. After college, I wound up playing overseas for 2 years. So I learned what it's like to be cut, and I learned what it's like to be the starting point guard against the Soviet national team in Moscow, Russia. After coming back from playing professional basketball, and the reason that I stopped playing after 2 years, my mom in the back of my head said, you have your degree. And as your degree gets older, further away, you're going to be less valuable. So I only stayed playing professionally for 2 years, and I said, I got to go get a job. So I wound up working for the next 20 years for the Department of Agriculture as an audit supervisor. But during that time, while I was still working as an auditor full-time, I continued to play basketball. And I was playing 17 times a week, 2 times Monday through Friday, 3 on Saturday, 4 on Sunday. I just loved playing the game of basketball. And I continued to do that for a number of years. And then in 1994, I had this opportunity to create GSBS basketball with the model of good students, better athletes. And the reason that I did it was I really didn't like the way basketball players were being portrayed. At that time, there was a lot of talking going on. There was a lot of vulgar language. And I said, you know what, that's not really the way the game should be played. So with the opportunity at the Oaklawn Park District to create GSBS basketball, we started the program in 1994, and the first thing I did was I decided to develop individual programs to teach skills. I didn't want to have teams. I wanted to start individual programs. And then the business plan was, as I kept moving along, is to develop teams. Because once a player, you start having teams, I know the situation I was in where I wasn't good enough to play. I wanted them to be in a program of their own that they could follow through. So this continued for 18 years. We've seen about 3,500 kids each year. We have leagues, teams, and tournaments. And it's all due to Mr. Bob Houston, who was the 5th grade coach, who gave me that, the drive and the desire to be a respectful person. And I think that's the most important thing that I try to do in our program. And we tell the players every time they come, the most important thing that you need to do as an individual is not the wins or losses, as we all talk about, but it's what you can do to make someone else's life better. I've been blessed from God and my faith in many, many ways. And the most important one is my son Alex. When he was born, he was 2 pounds 4 ounces when he was born. And I remember he was at St. Joseph's Hospital on Lakeshore Drive, and the priest came out to me and he said, "You know what, there's a pretty good chance that he's not going to make it." I wasn't even listening to him because I had all the faith in the world that there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be fine. 26 years later, he's in his second year of teaching, had a wonderful career, and I just thank God that has given me the opportunity to teach young men and women and boys and girls the game of basketball. And I've just been very fortunate to have great relationships with a lot of people. And I can only tell you this has been the most humbling experience of my life. When I got the call from Mr. McCaskey and talking with Angela, and I will cherish this for as long as I live, and I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you very again for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you to my wife, Gretchen, for being here. Thank you to my mother, Virginia McCaskey, for being here. And thank you to the Sports Faith Committee, and I'd like them to please stand at this time. Matt and Angela Tomlinson, Floyd Houchins, Frank Casella, Jim Rosenthal, Dave Casper. It was great to be with you. It's been a preview of heaven. Monsignor Ketchum, would you please do the benediction?
As we conclude in prayer, I notice we have an image of Our Lady of Fatima with us. So let us conclude turning to Our Lady of Victory, praying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. The Lord be with you. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Have a blessed evening.